In March this year, a new client walked into St. Luke's and announced that he was launching a new cryptocurrency. And he needed from us a new inspiring brand story to explain why it was different and why people should trust it. And this wasn't just going to be a new currency, this was going to be the currency that will be adopted globally by everyone. Forget pounds, euros, they're all going. Cryptocurrency is coming, and this was going to be the one. Now, as you probably know, there's over 1,000 of these digital currencies, but this is the one that was going to beat them all. And we had exactly 1 month before launch to sort it out. It's amazing how fast you can get your head around blockchain when you really have to. Will it work? Who knows? But it's now live, and you can exchange it for euros, and importantly, the trust in it is powered by the brand that we as an agency helped create. And what it underlined to us at St. Luke's is that while technology is driving fundamental change in the way the world works, the need for brand stories that capture people's imaginations is not going away anytime soon. Now, while it's exciting or scary working with a new brand in a totally new category like cryptocurrency, for most of us, most of the time, this is not our everyday reality. For most of us, we're working in or with businesses who are transforming their legacy business in order to exploit the new opportunities technology is creating, and that's not easy. As St. Martin said, transforming an existing business is akin to changing the engines on the plane while it's still flying. And today, Kenyatte and I are here to tell one of those stories. This is the story of how Shop Direct created a new brand to help transform their 90-year-old business into a market-beating, pure-play online business, and how they grew that brand to being a £1.2 billion business in just 7 short years. And here is Very in its competitive set. Very is the youngest brand on this chart, and it's interesting to see just how close it is to IKEA now. Shop Direct, as a result, is the second biggest pure-play non-food online retailer in the UK, behind Amazon. And importantly, and I guess the reason we're talking here today is this success owes a huge amount to branding. Shop Direct has 2 brands, Very and Littlewoods. And Very, at its simplest, is identical to its sister brand. It sells exactly the same stuff to pretty much the same demographic, using all the same online and mobile platforms and the same delivery services. It does have a slightly different financial services model, but apart from that, the brand is the only thing that separates the two. Now, of course, over the last 7 years, almost everything about Shop Direct, the Shop Direct operation, has changed. It's been transformed. But those changes have been applied to both Littlewoods and Very at the same time. So essentially, it's the way that changing operation has been repackaged and rebranded that's helped unlock the potential of the business.
So before we get into the challenges faced by Shop Direct, let me just give you a bit of context. So Neil talked about the 2 big brands, Shop Direct, Very, and Littlewoods. Littlewoods been around for over 90 years. And on both brands, Very and Littlewoods, we sell everything from refrigerators to fashion, toys to technology. We are effectively a department store. And just like the John Lewis's and the Debenhams of the world, we have a big, broad range. And in that context, we're very similar. What makes us different, however, is credit. So we are a department store that's powered by a financial services offer. We've been doing it for about 90 years. We're quite good at it. And interestingly, over 95% of all trade that goes through Shop Direct is done through a credit account. And that's what makes us different. It's at the heart of our corporate purpose: make good things easily accessible to more people, good things being great product, easily accessible being the user experience and the end-to-end journey, and more people fundamentally an upgrade on aspirational product through financial services and the credit proposition, which is at the heart of both of those brands. Now, that said, in 2010, I think it became obvious to the board, the CEO, and the balance of the business that we had these 2 brands, but Littlewoods, which at the time was about half of the business, wasn't going to be fit for purpose for the future of the business. It wasn't in the best position to land the innovation from a retail, financial services, and UX standpoint. And propositionally, it wasn't best placed to evolve with the changing needs and desires of the customers that we serve. We had a customer who was more savvy, had more options, and can use comparison tools like Google Shopping to get better deals, and Littlewoods was not optimally placed to serve her in the way she expected. We didn't just want shoppers who needed us because of the credit. We wanted to create a proposition that would attract shoppers who wanted to shop with the brand. And as a result, Very was born. It was fun. I think it's fun. Pink, and it's cubed. It was launched with Fern Cotton and Holly Willoughby, and it grew incredibly fast. In 2013, this guy, who I like to call ambition personified, who's the CEO, Alex Baldock, he was appointed, and he made it quite clear very quickly that Very wasn't going to be just a successful business. It was going to be the growth engine for Shop Direct. I came to the business in 2015, and I had really a quite clear mandate from the board, and that was to create marketing and customer communication that drove accelerated growth on Very and continued the CAGR growth rate of about 20% year on year. Now that was in the context of a Littlewoods brand that was in managed decline. Still big, still very profitable, still very important, still very cash generative, and still serves a critical role in the lives of the customers it serves. But it was clear, as I said before, Very was going to be the growth engine for the business. Now, a couple of opportunities became pretty self-evident. The first was we needed to get clear on the customer motivations. As I talked before, the customer was evolving. We needed to understand what was driving her choices in the retail sector. That was number one. Number two, we needed to get a clear articulation of the brand's proposition and link that to the strategy. How is Very's proposition going to be linked to good things easily accessible for more people? And third, we needed to take that proposition and find a way to articulate it consistently across all channels in a way that excited and motivated the customers, as well as the organization internally. Essentially, we needed to square the value equation. And I use this with my teams and with the board and other leadership colleagues to talk about, in my view, the role of marketing. Essentially, it's perception management. The value equation here, the perceived value equation, essentially equals the strength of the brand divided by the price. All of those are perceived by the customer. Very has been growing for the last 6-7 years and had been through strength of retail and financial services promotion. My feeling was that we could create a stronger and more profitable business by creating a stronger brand, and essentially strengthening of the brand would square and strengthen the value equation without the need to lower the price point and to be more promotional. Additionally, I felt like St. Luke's was the right partner for this. There were 3 challenges we had. One was we needed to get clear on how we articulated what in my mind was a quite complex product truth. We're essentially a retailer and a bank, right? So it's quite complicated. And St. Luke's, who had been around since 2010, longer than the existing CEO, was well positioned to help us with this. The second was the company truth. We needed to make sure that we had an agency partner that could help us articulate this proposition in a way that was authentic and genuine to what we were trying to be and be seen as. And then the third, the audience truth. And I'll talk to that here in a second, but St. Luke's, I felt, was uniquely positioned to help us understand and better understand the customer we were looking to serve and understand how her expectations could be met by us as a brand.
Kenyatte didn't explain any of that at the time, but so this was going to be more than just a lick of paint. This was about the total transformation of every aspect of the business as it moved to being a pure play, online, mobile-first business. So this wasn't a brief just for a new campaign. The brief to us was for a proper total brand platform that would work both externally and internally, driving growth of the brand on the one side and inspiring Shop Direct employees and its stakeholders on the other. Or in our terminology, what was really needed was a brand agenda. So the measures we were looking at externally, we obviously needed to build awareness of the brand. Awareness was pretty low. Secondly, we needed people to understand this complex proposition that Kenyatte has just explained so that people would consider us. Then we needed people to be confident in the end-to-end delivery of the proposition so that they would actually choose us. And finally, we needed people to actually love us. You know, Littlewoods wasn't a loved brand. It's a brand that you needed very. We really wanted people to love that brand so that we could sell more at full price without giving away margin. Internally, we wanted to leverage the change from being a catalogue business to being this online player amongst our brand partners. Brands like Jigsaw and Whistles who wouldn't come on board, who were currently rejecting the brand as a channel to market. So could we change them? Shop Direct as a business is the result of a number of mergers. So the second question internally was, could the brand help unify and engage the workforce? And finally, the board question. As we shifted from being a trading-led business to a brand-led business, we needed to ensure that we had the full buy-in and support of the board and the shareholders. It wasn't marketing going in one direction and the CEO and the board going in the other.
So we talked about the three challenges: seeing through the customer's eyes, creating the proposition, and then executing holistically. I'll talk the first in terms of seeing through the customer's eyes. Shop Direct and Very in particular had done a great job of extracting value from the customer. What we hadn't done a good job of historically is creating value for the customer. To deliver shareholder value, our point of view was we had to deliver and communicate true customer value. And to do this, we had to see through our eyes. So what was the insight? Neil drew this, by the way. Our audience, like most of us, had three versions of herself floating around in her head. There was the actual self, who puts her family first, juggling work, family, childcare, potentially feeling stretched. There was a hoped-for self, would look good and felt good, enjoyed life, appreciated by friends and family members, and in control of all that surrounds her. And then there was the feared-for self, feeling a bit stuck, low energy, comparing ourselves to the others. Now, what did this mean for our customer? Essentially, what it meant was she had really high expectations, which was the hoped-for self, but life demands created a gap between the hoped-for self and the actual self. That gap creates stress, and that stress is created by a shortage of resources, energy, inspiration, and interestingly for our customer, who is a C2D customer in the UK, financial flexibility. So our role in this became quite clear in our mind. It was to close the gap between the hoped-for self and the actual self, the expectations and the reality. Help bring those two things closer together so she can be her hoped-for self more often. Now, there were two pillars that brought this to life in our minds. The first, inspiration, and the second, access. And I'll talk to how that links to the group purpose here in a second. Inspiration is aspirational product that she desires. And then the access is rooted in ease and affordability. So digital experience, ease of moving through the journey and the end-to-end process, and then financial services, affordability through payment options. We articulate those in the context of what we call our agenda-setting ideas, helping her get more out of every day. We wanted to shift the rubric to being a brand that sold credit to people who wanted to buy stuff, to being a brand that talked about making infinite possibilities more effortlessly accessible. So from personalized offers, life hacks, celebrating a nation of givers last Christmas, again, we talk about and we believe in creating shareholder value and customer value by focus on creating customer value and bringing those two selves together. We put our promise at the heart of all of our communication, and here's an example of that.
Drum, don't you give it all away because you're gonna want some. How'd you lay it down with a rhythm so sweet, like a little bit of milk and a little bit of coke. One so hot, so set it on fire.
Get more to your home from your phone. Get more out of every day at very.co.uk.
Okay, so that's the latest TV ad based on the brand agenda, get more out of every day. And you'll have spotted there was a big, pink, Very cube right at the heart of it. So, why the pink cube? Well, back in 2015, as I said, we had a big issue with awareness. We were now spending, in fact, almost as much as brands like M&S, just fashion and home, but our awareness was small and was only building slowly. One of the big challenges facing us as a pure play online retailer, of course, is we don't have these. The store presence of Next, M&S, Argos, all these drives amazing awareness for these brands. They are ticking the physical and mental availability box, on every street corner and in every mall in the country. We walk past and around and under these logos all the time. We walk into their branded environments. We know what they feel like. We have a visceral sense of what it's like being in an Argos. None of this was available to us at Very. So what did we have? A few years ago, essentially we had TV, print, and a catalogue. Now, of course, we have this vast proliferation of channels. At the height of the Christmas campaign for Very, the Very audience have over 40 opportunities to see the brand every day. But unless it stands out, the real danger, they don't see any of them. Somehow we had to get all of these channels to link up in the customer's mind. Now, of course, these opportunities to see aren't just ads, they're fashion content, they're how-to content, they're sponsorship idents, it's the site itself, social posts, PR coverage. There's a stream of personalized emails and SMS coming to her now. Almost all of it is on digital screens, and almost all of it is on the move. And when we thought about it, we realized that Very was as much a content provider as it was a retailer. So we asked ourselves, who combines branding and content brilliantly? And of course, it's the broadcasters, and they really need to. They really need to own that content because, as we've seen, it can move channels. So these are all brilliant examples. I think the Channel 4 ones are particularly good of where the content is embedded with the brand. So, with this in mind, we started with our brand, a pink square with fat retro type. The bright pink and the square were things that we knew people liked and remembered, were very strongly associated with the brand, and the retro type told people that it was fun. So the question was, how could we put this incredibly valuable piece of brand real estate right at the heart of all our comms? It couldn't just be a logo stuck in the middle of the ads. It had to have real meaning. It had to represent the brand agenda. So we have our square, but by shifting our perspective a bit, the square becomes a box, and the box becomes a delivery box, of course. And then this had real meaning because delivery is an essential part of being online. High street stores can't put delivery at the heart of their brand identity. They can talk about it in the comms, but they can't make it part of their brand identity. Only a pure play online brand can do this. And because it was a box, you could literally get more out of it. And so the pink cube was born. And this wasn't going to be a static cube like the broadcasters' logos. This cube was going to have a life all of its own. So here it is, working across all our channels.
And then, of course, the third part of the jigsaw was about complete shared ownership of the new brand and the brand's proposition. My view is that great ideas inspire amplification. You can always tell when a great idea enters the room or is spoken by someone because people start to snowball with it. And we felt like that's what this was, but we wanted to give it a bit of a spur. Three key elements to this. The first was shareholder and stakeholder engagement. You've heard from some of the other presentations today the importance of stakeholder management in this process. And we did that throughout this process, engaging the board, the group leadership team, and a plethora of other stakeholders across the business. The second was co-creation. This wasn't just a piece of agency work. It wasn't just a piece of marketing team work. it was truly created, co-created by the marketing team, the agency, internal creative teams, and others. And then the last was, this is truly rooted in customer and business truth. As we talked before, our customer seeks to get more out of life and uses the products he purchases to achieve this. Our brand, Very, helps her get more out of every day by providing access to those products. Simple, ownable, flexible, it works across lots of different touch points. This is an asset that truly belongs not just to the brand or the marketing team, but it owns to the business, it belongs to the business, it belongs to the colleagues, and it belongs to our customers. And it has, over time, become an utterly integral part of the way the business now sees itself. Whether we're doing events in our offices and speak, product showcases, the cube is always present. In 2016, we launched our own brand label, or relaunched it, V by Very. And inside the lining of all of the jackets and coats was the outline of the cube. And in the same year, we launched a 20,000 square foot gym, cafe, recreation area, and meeting space for our colleagues and speak. And it was called the Cube. And here, what you see here is the new offices we just launched in London, in Skyways, near the Victoria train station. I'll pause here quickly just to say something. As a marketing director, I think it's important to call out, I didn't see any of this before it actually happened, right? The business did it themselves. I didn't ask them to do it. I had no idea the lining was happening. I didn't see what you see on the left until I walked into the building. I had no idea it was even happening. So this has been owned completely by the business, by our colleagues, and hopefully by our customers.
So, as we said right at the start, Very's become a substantial brand very quickly. But how do we do with some of the other measures we wanted to see moving? So, starting with awareness. Since the Cube launched, you can see the dotted line there, 18 months ago, spontaneous awareness has almost doubled. And if we put it in context of the competition, prompted awareness has just exceeded prompt awareness of Next at Christmas in 2016.
And as we move forward and look at consideration, a key metric for us, how many people would definitely or probably shop at Very. In 2014, that was 1 in 10 of our customer target audience. 2017, that number is now 1 in 3. And consideration has moved to confidence, and that confidence is manifesting itself in sales. You've seen this chart that Neil put up on the board earlier during the presentation. In just 7 short years, we've moved to well above £1 billion in terms of sales. And although I can't share the details on profitability, what I can say is we've had record profit growth and sales growth for the last 5 years at Shop Direct, driven by Very. And in fact, Shop Direct has, for the last 3 years running, been Retail Week's Pure Play E-Retailer of the Year for 3 years running, and that's a feat that no other retailer has been able to accomplish.
So those are the external measures, but as I said before, we want to change stakeholder perceptions as well. And one of the more important ones was the brand owners, the brand partners. So we wanted to get brands that were previously rejecting us on board, and the Very story has done exactly that. 500 brands have joined the group, driven by Very, brands like Jigsaw, Bose, and Samsonite.
And as we look at employee engagement, an important metric for us internally, we've seen massive step forward. 2009, before the launch of Very, at 62% across the group, 35-point improvement to 2017 at 84%. It's a 10-point improvement versus the average benchmark for retail here in the UK, and very close to what we would class as best in class, 84 versus the 86. And I think importantly, and you've heard a few people talk about this, connectedness between what we're trying to achieve from a marketing and branding standpoint and what the C-suite is trying to achieve strategically. The group purpose, make good things easy, accessible to more people, bolstered by inspiration and access. Inspiration, good things, product, and aspirational ideas and possibilities, and then access, easy access through user experience in the mobile journey, and more people through FS affordability. The one thing I will pause and say here is this has been a group effort. The success you see on the screen in terms of profitability, sales, growth and consideration, all the results of not just what we've done, but also the support from trading, financial services, cost control, cash, inventory management, sourcing and fulfillment, customer service, down to issue resolution. This is truly a shared result, and we're very, very proud of. One we're very, very proud of. Now, I guess that's it. That's the story of how a dusty catalog brand became what we think is one of the best and most loved e-retail businesses in the UK. And since that little cube is the gift that keeps on giving, we thought it would be right to talk a little bit about what's coming up in the retail market in terms of peak and Christmas. So more than ever, just like all of our retail competitive brands, Very is very focused on, for this period, creating insight-driven, consistent communication that's inspiring to our colleagues and our customers, as we do every Christmas. Last year, we were really successful, as evidenced by the fact that for the first time in the brand's 7-year history, we showed up on YouTube's top rank of the top 10 most viewed Christmas ads. Now, interestingly here, we're the youngest of those brands, and I think the only one that's under the age of 50 that's on that list. And what I'll do now is show you how we did it.
Get more out of giving. Get more out of every day with very.co.uk.
Thank you.
We're all left with a very warm, fuzzy feeling after that. You guys definitely know what you're doing. Now, can I ask you to stay with us for a couple of questions, but we're going to need some choreography here. If you just come and stand here, this way, there's going to be a bit of shuffling and reorganisation just going on there while we get set up for the next panel. I mean, one question which sort of occurs to me is that you've done a magnificent job, obviously, in reinventing a 90-year-old shopping brand into one fit for the digital age. But, of course, all the challenges now are coming from the likes of Amazon, Boohoo, you know, there are other dedicated online retailers. So how do you now take that challenge on?
So I'll take this and then we'll talk communicatively as well. I think it's present in our strategy. Good things, easily accessible to more people. Fundamentally, and you hear our chief executive talk about this, Shop Direct and subsequently Very are brands that exist for a singular purpose, to give our customers an upgrade through financial services. Where we can have a point of parity is in the product offer. We can have a point of parity is in the end-to-end supply chain management delivery service. But we have a strong point of difference is in our ability to lend to those who could not get the credit from other places in the market. What that also affords us is the data in that context as well, where brands like Amazon and others, other big digital businesses, have reams of data on the customer's shopping behavior. We have all of that, but we also have reams of data on the customer's buying behavior with respect to how they pay for things, how they manage the finances, and it gives us the ability to personalize both offer and financial services offer in a way that no other retailer can do.
And just a quick one on the Pink Cube. Obviously hugely successful now, but what was the initial reaction? I only asked because I'm minded here. In a past life, I was a sports journalist and I covered the London 2012 Olympics, and I'm minded, sorry to bring this up, of the Olympic logo, the 2012 logo, which of course at the time was, you know, widely criticised, but you know, once the adaptations of it were shown and how it was differently sort of deployed, it really worked. What was the initial reaction when you showed people the Pink Cube?
Well, firstly, as Kenyatte says, it was very much a co-created exercise. And there were debates. We did have it with rounded corners at one point. There was a big debate about rounded corners square. Kept it square, proper cube. It was going sort of one way, and then we kept it the other way. So there was a huge amount of debate about it, but I don't think anyone had any argument about the goal of putting that at the heart of communications. And as someone said to me afterwards, my God, there it was under our nose the whole time. And so I think we'd uncovered something that was already there and brought it to life. And I think that's what's made it so successful.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, well, thanks very much to Neil. Thanks very much to Kenyatte. Genuinely fascinating presentation. Thanks very much, guys. Thank you.